Can I give you one that is timely right now? We're recording this September 11th, 2025. Ramp has been in the news this week. I know because I covered it. Tell me about Ramp and learning about them.
Yeah, so Eric and Kareem had started a company called Paribus before Ramp. We were not investors in Paribus, and a lot of the time when a founder start a first company, if they're successful, you as an investor that weren't in the first company don't get a shot at the second one. But we just heard about how amazingly great they were, and so they were at Capital One, and we sort of found a warm introduction to Eric and Kareem, and my partner Nimi, my partner Adam, and I went over. We got invited to, I think it was Eric's apartment at the time in Union Square, and we went over and met Kareem and Eric sitting on his couches in his apartment, and it was just obvious they were like magical movement builders. They had a very distinct vision. The easy way to say it was they were going to build a corporate credit card, but target New York startups. They had a bigger vision than that, and I think you're seeing that vision play out today in the software that they've built. But what was interesting about the start of Ramp was we committed to invest, and we ended up doing it alongside Keith Raboy. And I think we're the second biggest check in that first round of Ramp. And we convinced them on us. And part of the conversation was we promised them that we would be able to march them around to New York founders who would write small angel checks and commit to using Ramp for their company. And so I don't know how many founders they took in that first round, probably 50, 60 founders who wrote small checks that were New York based. And Ramp again created this momentum of using the New York ecosystem to launch their company. And it was as smart of a go-to-market and well executed as it gets.
Unbelievable hack right there.
Yeah.
Investing and growth hack. But let me follow on that one with Stripe.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to meet Patrick and John late. I was not early enough in Stripe to tell you some magical story. We were working with them at Spring, which you referred to, and there was an opportunity to put a check into a round that was well past sort of the early round, and fortunate enough to do that. They're generational founders, and I think what they've done and continue to do is just a unique outcome for any company, let alone a tech startup. And I think what's cool about them is they started it in a moment of quiet and fintech, and Plaid and Stripe, different companies, but they started in fintech before it had a name. And they were innovating in an industry. And if you go back to your earlier question around the global financial crisis, right? Like it opened up the industry of fintech too. And I think Stripe is a really amazing outcome of that vulnerability that the GFC created.
All right, two more for me, if you will. But dealer's choice of like one of the DTCs, like Warby Parker or Harry's or one of those.
Yeah, I met Jeff from Harry's, who was also a founder of Warby Parker, in a coffee shop in Midtown. I told him I'd never used a real razor. I'd only used an electric razor in my life. And Jeff is charisma and leadership and confidence and intelligence. He's this magical, ambitious founder, and I had no passion for razors or men's shaving. But Jeff, and that goes to the essence of what startup investing is backing people at the earliest stage is what we do. And it was just obvious you would be lucky to be part of Jeff's journey. And I think, what Neil and Dave and Jeff and Andy did from Warby Parker is really invent a category. And for a long, long time, every D2C company was a Warby Parker for X. And, they're still going. They're a public company. Neil and Dave still run the company. And I think, if you look at the quality of team that they've built over time and the amount of talent that has come out of it and produced companies and leadership in other companies, it's one of the great New York stories.
All right, this is the last one, unless you want to shoehorn one in after this one. But I want to do a what could have been, which would be Vine. And I don't even want to hear as much about the beginning of Vine as much as like your thoughts on what could have been and how it went.
Yeah, I think if you look at like internet history, a lot of the great ideas worked the second, third, fourth time, not the first time. And timing matters, and all the variables that are very hard to quantify and qualify later on are one of the challenges, right? You can't viscerally remember the climate, the startup landscape at a moment when something's starting. So if you look at TikTok today and what Musically had done pre-TikTok, Musically isn't TikTok. It didn't get there. And we had funded a company called Mindy, which was after Vine, which was putting audio into 7-second video clips. And Mindy couldn't get the licenses for the songs, and they died. They got a lot of users, but it was this too early isn't good. And I think Vine, they had built this amazing prototype. And I think they sold the company, and they sold it to Twitter early, and they sold it pre-launch. And it was a great outcome financially. I think they ran into being inside of a big company, and you're at a big company as there's leadership changes, as there's landscape changes that are at the Twitter level, and you get impacted at the Vine level. And I think that is a real challenge to navigate, because startups are hard enough, and doing a startup inside of a bigger org is just compounding the level of difficulty. But from a product innovation standpoint, and from the original influencers, on one hand, you could point to YouTube, but really Vine is what created that category to me.
Totally.
And today you see, the influencer economy, and all of the stars that have come about, and Vine was really the origin of that concept. And Russ and Dom and Colin were the catalyst to creating that.